Hi, Kristen.
Hello. Hi, everyone. My name is Kristin Snowden. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist in the state of California and life coach. And this is a regular monthly webinar that we do to cover what I call is just all things relationships, stuff that we wish we learned when we were growing up, but instead we kind of learned through trial and error, lots of pain, lots of watching other people do it. And quite frankly, they don't really know what they're doing either. So it's like the blind leading the blind. Um, but today's webinar, I have been wanting to do this for many years because I don't find much of this topic in literature when we're studying or exploring sex addiction, betrayal trauma, any kind of other kind of addictions, or just toxic relationship patterns. And so today we're going to be talking about how there's a surprising red flag that we aren't really trained to notice. Do you see my camera moving in a strange way? It's like, is it doing that to you?
It was
Am
it
I,
was zooming in and out. I think
I
it's because you were
know, that's
moving your
so strange.
hand.
I wonder
It's
if it's
all
because I'm
good.
moving my hand.
Yeah, just
Anyway,
go with.
sorry,
We're
I'm going to
going
say
with
that
it.
again
It's
and
all
hope
good.
that I don't zig and zag. But it's the surprising red flag that we're not really trained to use and hone in our relationships. And that is the emotion or feeling of confusion. So feeling confused is very a simple red flag that we experience to just say something is off. Whether there's just mild issues that might show up in the relationship, like we just don't have really good communication skills, or maybe we haven't done the work to identify or express resentments that we might be holding on to, or it might be a symptom of something much, much bigger, like there's emotional abuse, gaslighting, a secret addiction going on, betrayal going on in the relationship. Regardless of it being kind of a sign or a red flag of a minor relationship issue or a much bigger one, if we can learn how to hone this very subtle superpower, which is this experience we have inside our body that we would call confusion, it can first and foremost help us connect with our instincts and intuition, which is paramount to getting through this world successfully. And it can also help us feel very empowered, very in the driver's seat in understanding what we need, how to express it, what we need moving forward from ourselves and from other people. Because as you know, when you experience unhealthy relationship patterns or any kind of emotional abuse or betrayal trauma, one of the most damaging aspects is that you really lose touch with your instincts and intuition. You just are really confused with, like, how do I feel? What is normal? Can I trust anybody? Are they saying what they mean or mean what they say? And so I find one of the greatest tools is to kind of start from this place of when I feel confused. So during this webinar, I hope to kind of explain why we feel confused, what I feel like is kind of the survival skill uh, type of cue we have in our body to kind of make us stop, look, and listen a little bit deeper, spend a little bit more time on something to pay attention for safety, kind of scan and assess it for safety. The reasons or examples of how we might feel confusion in our relationship, how it might show up, why those feelings trigger or why those experiences trigger confusion in us, and then some tools of how to respond afterward when we do notice that we're feeling confused. So let me give you a little bit of background. And again, I don't feel like this is in much literature, but this is what my particular clinical observations are when I have so many clients in my office come in with high levels of confusion. And this is just kind of what I feel theoretically is going on. But again, there might be other people who view this differently. But I feel like we are given, well, I know we are wired for survival. You know, you guys have all heard of that fight, flight, freeze, these trauma stress responses that are just built involuntarily in our neurobiology to constantly scan our environment and keep us safe. I have a ton of videos on those topics. I'll link them down below, but I feel like confusion is kind of like an umbrella or an extension of that system, that survival system. So we're given these survival cues to kind of help us survive and navigate this crazy, unpredictable world. We have these helpful reflexes that kind of cause us to like jump out of the way when the car is coming without even thinking. We have like extra stress hormones that come in to kind of help our heartbeat and help us move faster to get through traumatic, stressful events. But then we also have this sixth sense within us, our gut, our instinct, our intuition, something that's meant to kind of just wave the red flag, ring the fire bell, and just say something is off, something is just not right. So, understanding and identifying the multi layers that might be underneath that confusion, right? That just something isn't making sense. I'm so confused, can be one of the most effective lines of defense that you have when navigating your life and relationships. And it also might ultimately help you protect yourself and your loved ones from future trauma. And at the very least, if you're not in some abusive, unhealthy, toxic relationship, honing in on your confusion and learning how to explore that more can help you become a much more in tune with your body and a much more effective communicator, because you'll be able to know what you're thinking and feeling and what you need to feel safe. And by the way, when I talk about safety, I'll mention this before, after, and again, but when I'm saying safety, you have to understand your neurobiology is constantly scanning for what we call like consistency and predictability. It's happy and it's comfortable when it kind of knows what's going to come at you. It feels a little bit powerful and what to say, what not to say, how to show up, what road to drive down, what not to drive, what to eat, what not to eat, how to react, how not to react. And it kind of sends, positive hormones towards you or through your body when you feel like you are safe. But conversely, when you're experiencing things around you that are inconsistent, unpredictable, you feel very powerless and out of control. Things just don't make sense to you. It sends you a lot of uncomfortable hormones, like again, that fear and stress response. But it also, humans are one of the only species that require a sense of safety to have many sexual arousal experiences, to feel feelings of wanting to draw someone closer and nearer, share parts of yourself, what you're thinking, you're feeling, physical intimacy, emotional intimacy, intellectual intimacy, and spiritual intimacy, to name a few. We require a sense of safety to trigger kind of the green light in us internally to say, yeah, you're one to draw closer toward. So if you can imagine, if you're feeling like there's a lot of inconsistency, lack of safety, unpredictability, confusion in a relationship, the consequence of that will cause you to definitely want to withhold who you are, not share much, push away, avoid, feel probably a lot of anger too, but we'll talk more about that. So let's talk for a moment the differences between what I feel like are the fear and stress responses that we generally experience when we get our little cues for like danger, danger, something's off, versus like how confusion can show up in our life. So, fear and stress, I think many of you can definitely identify the physical experience of fear and stress. It's very uncomfortable, to say the least, very visceral, very obvious. And it's kind of telling you you're in immediate danger. Like there's a car that's broke, has their brakes on, and you really quickly need to take a deep breath and start, maneuvering your car to avoid that accident. Really quick responses and needing to show up in a very specific way to keep you safe. And so when you experience, however, like when you experience, let me start that sentence over again. So we're navigating the world and we're getting a lot of feedback of visceral experiences of fear. Bad things happen. immediate exposure to something that we feel blindsided by, traumatic events, and we can really, really stir up a very clear and obvious visceral experience from it that says, I'm in fear, I feel unsafe, I'm stressed, etc. However, when we're in an intimate, close relationship with someone, you could understand why your brain doesn't always send such an obviously visceral, extreme sensation in your body, cueing you that you're in danger or that something isn't safe. Um, because you're familiar with them, you've made these promises and commitments. You kind of think, oh, we're on the same team. Hopefully, you're giving me the benefit of the doubt. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. If we're intimate primary partners, we've been naked together. There's things that your brain kind of mitigates your fear and stress response. And so instead, I think the most common feeling you have when you get that I'm unsafe feeling will be a more subtle and nuanced experience, which I'm going to call is confusion. Kind of that hit the pause button. What's going on here? I don't even know what to do with my hands. Like, this is just not making sense. So, feeling confused in a relationship can be a sign of an unhealthy relationship because it often indicates that there are inconsistencies, there's mixed messages, there's conflicting expectations within the relationship. And all of these experiences, whether you're experiencing them very consciously and obviously or subconsciously, this can lead to feelings of uncertainty, insecurity, lack of trust in that person, in that relationship. And you need to pay attention because sometimes the feelings of confusion can be a very obvious sign that there is some level of manipulation going on, gaslighting, and that can further your state of confusion. Because as you know, with gaslighting, someone is denying your reality. Someone's denying your ability to say, it is definitely light outside. I see the sun. This is what I know to be true. And then what they do is they kind of say, well, you're crazy. There's no way the sun's out right now. Are you sure? Maybe you need to go on medication. And then that would let you, be more reasonable in the way that you're viewing outside. So this can also just cause you to feel more confused on top of confusion. Confusion can also be a sign of just poor communication. And of course, having clear communication, because you and your partner are like two aliens from outer space. You see things differently, you view things differently, you express things differently, your neurobiology experiences everything differently. You have to have clear and obvious communication in order to be seen and heard and understood. So when there's poor communication, it can obviously lead to misunderstandings, misinterpretations, and conflicting expectations. And so, just a reminder, you need to feel safe, to want to be vulnerable and intimate and be seen. Also, another indicator of confusion is that you might not be feeling like you're getting the emotional support and validation that you need. And so I could feel confused because I could feel like it's just so simple. Like, why doesn't he respond this way? Why doesn't he want to make me feel safe? Or why does he or she not want to make me safe or repair this? Or why does he or she get mad when I'm sad instead of try to console me? And this can lead to further feelings or experiences of loneliness, anxiety, and depression, and again, cause you to isolate more than want to lead into that person. So, before I get into the examples of how confusion shows up, I just want to say that when I have clients in my office who we currently either now know they're in an unhealthy dynamic because there's maybe addiction, lying, emotional abuse, extreme distress, someone living a double life, etc. Or we ultimately find out that that's going on, we uncover it. The most common overlapping symptom that I see is this. is the confusion. So it shows up in them kind of just asking very simple questions that I think most people wouldn't have a hard time answering. Like, do I have a right to be upset that I asked him to close the email account that he was using to communicate with the affair partner, and he got really angry at me? Or, I mean, should I ask her if we could maybe start couples counseling? I mean, we just kind of she says she wants to leave me, and I'd like to work things out. So, can I ask her to start couples counseling instead? So, it's to me, it's a sign when they're asking questions that I think a lot of people would be like, "Well, yeah, that makes complete sense." And they're pausing and they're really unsure and they're questioning the validity of it. It's a sign to me that it's a very effective way for me to kind of stop, look and listen and dive in deeper to really extrapolate and understand, dissect this experience of confusion, this experience of questioning things in order to kind of understand where the blockage happened, where the misunderstanding, where the confusion is coming from. Um, it can really, really help lead you to a clearer path. So let's dive into examples of how confusion shows up in your relationship. First, there's mixed signals. There's one partner may say one thing, but then does another, and that can lead you to confusion and uncertainty. And what are their intentions? What are they really? They're not predictable or consistent if they're sending mixed signals. And I don't trust to read them at face value because one minute they're this and another minute that they're that. So what are they? Inconsistent behavior. One partner's behavior is frequently inconsistent or unpredictable, making it difficult for the partner to understand or trust them. Gaslighting. So I've done a lot of videos on gaslighting, so hopefully most of you know it's when one partner regularly denies the other partner their reality or experience, and then makes that person kind of question, am I making this up in my head? Did I have this memory wrong? This is how I feel like I experienced it, but they keep telling me that I'm crazy and kind of replacing it with their story. Blame shifting. So one partner constantly shifts the blame onto the other, leaving them feeling confused about what they did wrong. So, you ask your partner, are you going to be home at 6:30 at night? They say yes, and you prepare dinner and have everything set for the 6:30 at night, and instead they come home at 7:30 and they didn't tell you why or answer their texts or anything. And when you try to go up to them and say, "Hey, dinner's cold and we were all sitting here waiting for you, and why wouldn't you just return my text?" And then suddenly it turns into, "I work really hard. How could you be so disrespectful of the fact that I'm so hardworking?" And suddenly you feel like I'm bad, I'm being unappreciative, I I'm the one in the wrong, but yet I was hurt and frustrated and quite frankly scared that I was calling my partner for an hour and I was getting no response. And he or she said they were coming home at 6:30. So I'm confused. Why am I unappreciative? Why am I a bad person? It's a really good example of confusion showing up. Manipulative behavior. One partner manipulates the other into things they don't want to do, making them feel guilty for things they shouldn't feel guilty about. So it could be about feeling sex, about interacting intimately with someone that, there must be something wrong with you, that you don't want to be intimate with me. And the person who doesn't want to be intimate is thinking, well, considering I just uncovered there was an affair, or quite frankly, you've been sloppy drunk every time when you come home, or quite frankly, I just uncovered something, on your computer that makes me feel really, really uncomfortable. And I'm trying to figure out who you are right now. And if you're the person I married, or if you're someone really unsafe. So, you find yourself feeling bad that you don't want to be intimate, physically intimate with them. But the truth is that you just don't feel safe. And and the act would be manipulative, that they're making you feel bad, that you don't feel safe with them. Contradictory expectations. One partner has one set of expectations while the other has a completely different set, leading to confusion and frustration. So what recovery is supposed to look like, what you think someone should be doing when they repair after a betrayal, when there's an argument and there needs to be repair done afterward, what you think that should look like. Some people's expectations are that there doesn't have to be repair or an uncomfortable conversation. We can yell at each other, say really mean things, and then an hour later pretend like nothing happened. So, and then the last example is lack of clear boundaries. One partner does not respect the other boundaries, or vice versa, leading to confusion about what is acceptable behavior. So here's some examples of things that I've heard in my client sessions that might be helpful for you to decipher when you're showing up with confusion. Sentences like, I don't understand why he or she is so mad about this or reacting like this. I don't understand what I did. I don't understand what I did to make this person react this way. Questions like, I just don't even get why my partner even loves me. Does he or she even love me? How do they even put up with me? I am crazy. I must be out of my mind, or who could love somebody like this? Why am I so mad? Why can't I get over this? What's wrong with me? Why don't I trust him or her? Why do I feel the need to check up on him or her, check him or her computer or phone or bank accounts? Why doesn't he or she want to repair our relationship after what he or she did? Why? I would apologize or say whatever it takes. How do I help you feel safe? Why aren't they reacting this way? Why don't I want to be physically intimate with him or her? Or conversely, why doesn't he or she want to be physically intimate with me? What is going on here? One day we're okay. One day I feel like we're headed to divorce. It shouldn't feel this unstable, this uncertain, this difficult. And then also sometimes you might find yourself asking, well, how do I play this? I really want to do or say X, Y, and Z, but that's not going to go well. So how do I kind of need to strategically say something, behave, don't behave, withhold a feeling in my body to hopefully get this particular outcome? And one of the big things I personally see as a therapist is that people who are confused in their relationship will constantly be surveying other people, about around them, asking them, am I right for feeling this way? How should I move forward? What do I do here? Are my feelings justified, etc.? Because again, they just don't even know. So some final things, these are some tools that you need to notice the confusion and then start exploring, what is the deeper meaning going on here? How do I navigate out of this? The confusion, if you can kind of think of, is like you kind of sitting in the mucky swamp. Something's not right. You're not comfortable. You want to get to the other end and you need to spend a little bit more time. It's not just as simple as walking down the street to get to the end of the street. You have to kind of maneuver some rocks and stickiness, and it's uncomfortable, and you need to pay a little bit more attention about how you need to move forward. So I feel like your brain it's like the ultimate request to hit the pause button and spend a little bit more time assessing the situation. So confusion in its most basic way is just saying something doesn't make sense. You're not really sure, things aren't matching up. There seems to be more questions than there are answers. And it's saying your body is screaming out that this person, this environment, the situation is not consistent, predictable, safe, and you should not be vulnerable, authentic, and intimate. You need more information to proceed. So first, just try your best to internally identify what confusion looks like or feels like in your body. Confusion for me comes in like a face. That's the first thing. So I almost feel my face scrunching up like, what? And so that's kind of my indication to kind of hit the pause button when someone asks something or says something and I'm like, what's happening here? I make a face expression. It shows up first in my face. So I kind of pay attention to that. I will also experience perseverating thoughts. So just find myself going over like, what was said? What did I miss here? Like, is there some piece that I didn't notice or I misunderstood? Also, big indicator will also be like feeling. Speaking of the blame shifting, like this shame. I feel yucky. I feel like I'm bad and I'm wrong. Why? What happened here? Like what was said? What was done? And then you're going through facts and experiences and conversations over and over again, trying to make it make sense. So just remember that this, I feel like confusion is kind of tied into your fear and stress response because it's a survival instinct telling you to pay attention. And so when you want to bring something up to your prefrontal executive cortex, your prefrontal executive smart brain, you have to add extra time, oxygen, and be curious. So start asking the following questions. What just happened? What did I see? What's the story that's going on in my head about what happened and what I see and what I'm experiencing? How is my partner reacting to all of this? Why do I think that he or she is reacting this way? And how would I rather them react instead? And if I wasn't afraid, or if I didn't even think that this was possible because it wasn't in the realm of possibilities for me, if I ignored all of that, what would I really want my partner to be doing? What would I be asking for in this situation and getting? What would what would I need from my partner from this situation? What outcome would I need to feel safe and settled and validated and like everything's okay again? That I'm connected to myself, to reality, to my partner. What would I actually need from a scenario like that? And a lot of, by the way, you might struggle with that answer because you have a little mechanism in your brain that's like, oh, what's the point? You don't deserve that. They're never going to give it to you anyway. But I want you to spend some time asking that of yourself. Do these things seem realistic? These things that you might need to feel safe? Do these things seem like something that my partner would actually do? And if not, why? Why wouldn't they do these things? I'm always a proponent of having your community around you to help you clarify and understand what's going on. So again, I'm okay. A lot of clients come into me confused, but I'm glad they're coming into me confused and asking these questions. That's my cue to really help them sit down and go through those lists of questions. So ask these questions in a group setting with other betrayed partners, with people who are struggling in similar environments, similar ways. Ask that therapist. So don't hear at all that confusion, some bad sign that you need to run away from and not let people know that you're confused. It's not a weakness. You need to turn it into your strength and hone it. This is a muscle that needs to be built up through practice and repetition. And so it feels exhausting at first to go through all these question and answer sessions, hitting the pause button, turning that executive brain on, being so bold and daring as to say, what would I actually really need in this situation to feel safe? How would I really need my partner to respond? What am I not getting that I desperately need? And is it even realistic for my partner? Do they have the emotional intelligence or tolerance for uncomfortable conversations that would allow me to ever, get through to the other side with them as my partner? So I always encourage clients to start a conversation with their partner when they are experiencing confusion, to say just simply, I'm confused. Please help me understand the following. Your reaction seems really strong. I'm confused and not understanding why you're having this reaction. Can you please help me understand? I'm really sad about what I just uncovered on the computer. I'm really uncomfortable with it. And I don't understand why you're getting angrier at me instead of just saying, okay, help me understand why you're so sad about what you just found on the computer. And maybe I can help you understand what's really going on here. Why am I the bad guy? So, um, your body is sending a message to you that you're feeling unsafe. It may be accurate or not. Who knows? You'll only know it by continuing down this kind of executive functioning, being curious, questioning system. And hopefully, with a little bit of practice, you'll be able to move from confusion to clarity. And that's it.
Great topic. And you're right. I haven't seen information on this. So really appreciate that. I was thinking when you first started about the red flags and how quick we are to dismiss them. Like we put the blinders on, and I know our brains are always looking to make order out of everything, but how we will squelch these really not so subtle messages. So I love that you're talking about ask these questions, pause. I think pause is a really huge thing. I was thinking that most of this is probably geared to betrayed partners, but I think that mixed message can be also, I think addicts, the betrayers, have a really hard time identifying this. So there's massive amounts of confusion. When you were talking about the mixed signals, Dr. Rob uses all the time, the come here, go away, come here, go away. And that is so key, in this relationship. And so as soon as you start leaning into something, then you're feeling like, no, I'm getting pushed away. What is that? How confusing is that, that mixed message? So I really love all the practical information. We've got a bunch of questions, so we're going to start with these. And if we have time, we'll go back to some of the others. So the first question is, I'm confused about my partner's sexuality and how it plays into our relationship. I thought he was heterosexual. However, one of the things I've discovered is that he had been on Grindr messaging with cross-dressing men and trans women. He says it is just a curiosity and he has never followed through physically, but I have confusion around this and a feeling possible evidence that he was not being honest. Why does this hurt me more than him being with women? And what does that confusion mean? That's a complex question.
It is. And unfortunately, because I don't know the details of a lot of these questions about why you're feeling confused, what the real components are, do I think he's being honest or is he dishonest? And quite frankly, it might be what we call confabulation. It's a lie told truthfully because he might want to be convincing himself that he, is more heterosexual than he actually is, that he might feel inside him. So a lot of my answers to these questions are going to be that you should never, ever discount or invalidate the confusion and hurt that you're experiencing, that you should never stop asking for what you need to feel safe. And if something still doesn't feel right in you, then you have every right to keep asking questions. Someone who is like a CSAT or trained in helping someone explore their sexuality would probably help him ask himself a lot of these questions. And he can be honest about it or not. You don't have control of that. But something is kind of ringing or waving that red flag in you saying, yeah, you're saying I'm heterosexual and that, I'm not confused about my sexuality, but his behaviors and probably how he's interacting with you, your physical, intimate lifestyle, his behaviors outside your relationship are making you strongly question that he is being honest. And that last question, why does this hurt me more than him being with women? And what does the confusion mean? You would have to be asking yourself that, is there a big difference in a scenario that if he just cheated on you with some other woman, and then you could come back to the and then you could come back to the relationship and you could repair it. I mean, I don't know the answer to this, but theoretically, if he is not heterosexual, or if he needs to engage with cross-dressing men and trans women to meet a need of some kind, that kind of has some more dire consequences on the viability of your heterosexual partnership than if he is actually heterosexual and he just went out and had an affair. So I'd explore that, right? The outcome possibilities look very different if he was having affairs in a heterosexual way versus if he's possibly not heterosexual, and what that would mean for your relationship.
I have a bunch of resources. I would invite you to email me, Tammy, TAMI at seekingintegrity.com. I'll leave it at that, but please email me if you would like some more options and resources. Okay, next question. I've been sober for over 2 years, regularly attend 12-step groups. My wife has asked me to leave the house and allowed me back in over 5 times in the last 2 years since my disclosure to her. I lied again, and she currently is asking me to leave for a year for her safety. We did not have a plan for what the consequence for breaking a boundary. I have done my best not to judge and question this request, as she says she needs it for her safety. As a recovering addict, if I were to let her know that a year is too long, what would that be invalidating her safety request? I have been out of the house for a month now, and we have 4 kids. She will not do couples counseling, so we are really working on with a third party to help us navigate this situation.
Yeah, sometimes you need a third party
Oh, it
to
says
help.
so we aren't
I
really
aren't.
working.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
sorry, I missed that. I was like, that's
Yeah, it's a big
okay. I
one.
apologize.
Right. So I'm hearing, if everyone can hear, first, I just want you to take a minute that I have a feeling when you're hearing someone else ask these questions, you're having lots of feelings of like, oh, well, this is obviously upsetting to me in this way. Oh, this is very concerning to me in this way. So this is a perfect example of how, from the outside looking in, or 20,000 feet above looking down, where we're not emotionally invested in the outcome, this isn't our relationship, we can kind of be like, oh, well, I would experience it this way. I would definitely respond this way. Oh, this is obviously upsetting me, but that we feel invalidated, right? So this, you've said, I'm sober, but there's probably lots of shame and guilt around the fact of what you did or your lying behavior. There's a part of you that wants to validate your betrayed partner, help her feel safe, which is great. But then there's a part of you that feels like you have the right to have needs, to have boundaries, to speak up because you have 4 kids that you want to be around. A year seems kind of long and arbitrary to you. You want to better understand exactly how you moving out of the home is going to repair her safety. And actually, so it sounds like you need a third party to come in and help you guys ask these questions. Because we do a lot of, this is what I need to feel safe. Okay, I'm not sure if I can give you all of that right now, but can I give you a version of this? And will that help you feel safe or reparative, etc.? So, yeah, it's hard with this state because to be kind of removed from the home for a year, it sounds like you're confused about how that's going to help the situation and how it's going to impact your children, and not have a couples therapist where you can, engage and ask questions and talk. That's going to be a hard thing to navigate.
Yeah, and I find that having a plan of like, what is it you're looking to see change, and evaluating that on a periodic basis, rather than, like you said, Kristin, the arbitrary, a year. Well, what does that mean? And how do we navigate that? So to me, I would be looking for progress, actionable progress. And so could we look at it in 2 months or 3 months, and then, see where things are on the checklist and what else are you looking for, but to have a plan. It is difficult for relationships when there's really extended periods of time apart, but with no plan to how do we navigate the space in between. I hear often people, we've been separated for 3 years. Well, what's the plan? And there really isn't a plan. So I think it's important to look at how do we do this. And if your wife is completely unwilling, is there something, if it's not counseling with a third party, is there something where just to mediate the communication to get that plan, rather than official, therapy, could be useful. But I think it'd be like Kristin says, I'd be curious, can you tell me what your expectation is at a year? Could we look at it in 3 months? Can you tell me what you are looking for, so that I can work towards those things? That to me would feel like there's at least, a semblance of a plan. Okay, next one. Confusion applied to betrayed partner is obviously, especially around discovery. On the other hand, assuming addict 6 months in is doing all of his work, sober and serious about building trust and progress, is his confusion to be ignored about her signals? Is it a two-way street, mixed signals, or does he just stay quiet for a few years?
Well, I think we talked about this in the question before, which is don't forget every human has the right to plug into their neurobiology, say what doesn't feel good or safe or what they need in this world. It doesn't always mean that your partner is capable of giving it to you. It doesn't always mean that home is going to be that safe space, especially for the people who tune into these, right? The home or the partner is not exactly the greatest source of consistency, predictability, safety, etc. But just because you are the addict, it does not exclude you from having the right to say that you're struggling with certain things. There might be miscommunication or missed signals on your end. When you're in an immediate crisis where they just found out that you've been, 6 months in, they're probably still going to be in crisis mode of how could you do this to me, and do I even know you, and can I trust anything out of your mouth? So conversations about like fixing the relational dynamic is going to be hard 6 months in, but you still get to talk about it. You get to say, I understand that I have completely blown it. I've lied. I have sent you missed signals. I have manipulated you. Um, and I'm doing my best to repair my issues, my problems. But I'm hoping if our goal is to repair relationally, that we'll also have the opportunity to explore beyond just my addict, my responsibility, and my accountability to what I've done to you, but talk about creating a safe environment for both of us where we can communicate better, we can interact better, that we can be. I always feel like, but sometimes it's not, that when you're assessing the viability of a relationship or you're trying to repair, it goes just beyond like, I'm trying to repair because, oh, I really blew it and I owe this to my family. Theoretically, it hopefully will be because you want to do real intimacy. Maybe you'd never experienced it before. And you want to know if now that this person knows everything about you, your good, bad, light, dark, what you're really capable of in your darkest moments, and they still are sticking around and trying to repair, that you want to have real intimacy, experience consistency, predictability, safety, and you're going to have to work through those confusing things that I listed, blame shifting, mixed signals, etc. But we're triaging 6 months out, where we're kind of dealing with the most significant trauma, which is, uncovering the betrayal.
So you mentioned it too, Kristin, but it's communication. So being silent isn't, and as an addict, I'm going to say, yay, for 6 months. Guess what? Your betrayed partner is going, big deal. How many years, decades have you been lying to me? A betrayed partner is far behind because you've known all the time. You knew all the secrets and the double life and everything else. They didn't. And so now, great that but you have 6 months in. And it's been mentioned on other webinars. It's not a secret. It's sometimes daunting, but really recovery is, you're looking at it at 2 to 3 years. That's when you're really integrating all of those things. So yes, great that you're doing well, and it's one day at a time. We have a daily reprieve, all of those things. Communication, it is I really encourage you, we've talked on other webinars too, set 20 minutes aside and have a time where it's a safe place for the two of you to talk about, these things. Eddie Caparucci will be on next week, and he talks about getting to the other side, and he talks about, navigating this as in a coupleship. So, but either of you just, going, well, I have to be quiet, I can't do anything. How does that, how does that further or benefit the relationship? Like Kristin said, it's like, you could have, if you're both willing to do this journey, a deeper, more meaningful relationship than you could ever have imagined, because you, as the addict, knew you were hiding all of these things, and the partner is going, my entire world got rocked with, I didn't know is anything real. And it takes a longer time for your actions to show to the partner that, I'm really committed to this, and I'm gonna, we don't get a gold star just because, like, now see, I know I've been lying to you for 2 decades, but now look, I'm doing really good. Yes, great. Go get a chip at your 12-step, fantastic. But understand your betrayed partner is still reeling. Okay. Next question. Thank you so much for choosing this topic. This is what I have been telling my therapist for 5 months, and I'm always feeling so confused. D-Day was 12 years ago, married for 13. My husband is 5 months sober, but not in recovery, and that has been causing the confusion. Things are worse in the last 5 months with my husband blaming me for all his bad feelings. Ugh, we have a treatment program for men. Seriously, I'm not minimizing. Someone who, like, you've been dealing with this for more than a decade, and he's still not getting it. Please consider expert treatment with Seeking Integrity. But
value
Kristin,
and
thoughts?
honor that feeling of confusion. That is
Yes.
a mild way. It is your nervous system freaking out, saying you are not unsafe, but it's kind of just this under the radar one. It is still exhausting you. And think of what you can't be or do or think or live because your neurobiology is constantly telling you you're in danger. I mean, what you're missing out on.
Yeah, and you've been in danger for 12 years. You're like, that's a long time to be in a constant state of, of the gaslighting, manipulative, blaming, the delusion of like, oh yeah, I'm doing good. So I'm really sorry, but please lean in. We have on this platform, we've got a betrayed partner work group starting again March 1st. And then we also have many betrayed partner, like we've got a betrayed partner drop-in group this afternoon at 12:30 Pacific time. I'd invite you to join that. Lots of resources, so check them out on seekingintegrity.com. Okay, so then this question is, what if I want to be physically intimate with my partner? This is the person that wrote that there's confusion about the on Grindr, etc. So what if I want to be physically intimate now with my partner, but they can't follow through because they get stuck in shame and guilt? I'm confused as to why he was able to be intimate with other people without those feelings, but the feelings come up for me. I'm confused as to whether it is actually due to shame or it has more to do with me physically or personally, and the shame is just an excuse. How do I bring up this discussion and get honest answers without him being guarded?
Yeah, again, you sound like you have really great instincts. And it sounds like these are legitimate questions that I'm getting. My instincts and intuition are telling me that he's not quite ready to come to terms with the answers to these really great questions and feelings that you have coming up. So, first try, because obviously it sounds like you're trying to repair. It sounds like you want physical intimacy. Those are all okay and understandable. There's people who are not just professionals in sex addiction type behaviors, but they're professionals in helping clients explore their sexual identity, sexual orientation, create clarity around that. There's also people who help reintegrate sexual intimacy after there's been extreme sexual betrayal. So there's a lot of complications and multi levels to these questions that you're asking. I wish I could give you some really concrete answers, but the big thing I want you to walk away from is nothing that you're saying is invalid. It all makes perfect sense. These are questions you need to be asking. Whether or not you're going to get honest answers from him, that sounds questionable, but it sounds also reasonable that he needs to continue work around getting these answers for himself. And then also you kind of starting to almost answer these questions in his absentia, which is like, if he cannot have physical intimacy, if this continues, if I continue to have more confusion rather than answers and safety and stability, what am I going to need to do? What kind of boundaries do I have to set up? Should I not, if I can't shake this vibe that he's withholding things from me, he's not 100% sure about what's going on. I also, you haven't indicated the timeline of how long it's been from the time that you uncovered these behaviors and what kind of recovery program he's done. But I think it sounds very reasonable. Like I said, talk to Tammy. She's got a ton of resources. You are not the only heterosexual couple that has had a partner act out in ways that are not in a heterosexual manner. And there's lots of resources for both of you that including support groups of people who have struggled in a similar way, so you can feel open and safe and supported to kind of share these nuances that are going on with you. Like, because you highlighted a really important point. It's like, I'm almost to the point that I wish you just acted out with a woman. And that seems crazy to me, but you need to talk about that and talk about that with other people who understand that.
So a couple things I wanted to mention, because I hear you internalizing that it has to do with me physically or personally. It doesn't. Like, Dr. Rob says all the time, there's nothing you did or didn't do that caused this. There's nothing you can do now or in the future that will change it. So while it feels like, oh, it must be about me and it must, he's not attracted to me for something, it isn't, so please trust that it isn't you. The other thing you mentioned is he can be intimate with other people. Sex addicts prove all the time that you can have sex without any intimacy. It's objectifying. It is, it is dopamine. It is like all of these other things, but it is not intimate. So, unless, it's been dinner and, truly an affair and all of this kind of stuff and more emotional, it is, it is objective. It is got nothing to do with intimacy. So we talk all the time about, there's sexual intimacy, and then there's just intimacy, like, being connected in a real and meaningful way. And that's in a relationship, what you're looking for. But sex, like a sex addict, like I said, all the time can prove that sex is not about intimacy for them. It's just another form of acting out. So, okay, next question. I don't know what to expect. My D-Day with my addict partner was a little over a year ago. He's been in SA meetings twice a week for the past year, but he is acting now more now than before when he started the meetings. He is still gaslighting, blame shifting, mood swings, tantrums, etc., with acting out on a weekly basis. I understand giving him time and space for him to get himself together, but shouldn't he be showing consistent improvements by now? Oh, I got a lot to think on this one. Go ahead.
Right, but I'm gonna pull out 20,000 feet above, because I want to invite every person except for the person writing this sentence to think for a minute what your feelings are, how you would want to respond to this question. So again, I just want to take a minute to say that I think confusion in our society can sometimes feel like weakness, like there's something wrong with us, that we don't know the answer. But I want to emphasize to you that it's not weakness. It's just, again, it's a survival cue kind of ringing its bell at us in just a more subtle way, telling us something's wrong and something very serious needs to change to help you feel safe. I know extremely highly educated people who are high functioning, running multi-million dollar businesses, in the medical field, et cetera, who are all, by all definitions, smart and successful, but they get stuck in this web of confusion. So what I just want to say about that is that you need to just be paying attention to what you're seeing, what the facts are, and exploring what exactly are you still confused about. What is it because if you had an idea of what you really needed to feel safe, that answer is really scary. So it kind of puts you on this loop of like, why won't he just, versus like, oh gosh, maybe the answer is X, Y, and Z, and that seems even scarier. And then giving him time and space for him to get himself together. Are you confused about what that might look like? How much time and space is required for someone to get together? What seems to you like a reasonable time, and what does space look like to have him become more consistent and improved by now? So I'll pass this over to Tammy to say what she wants to add.
I really love what you just shared and taking the pause. So for you, I would invite, what healthy boundaries do you need for you? Because this is, I mean, he's acting out every week. He's not in any kind of sobriety. He's not even in abstinence. So, but I'll take it out of this. If he had cancer and was dabbling in cancer treatment, I bet you would feel differently, but he is, so he's like going like, well, maybe I'll do a chemo here and there. My doctor recommends doing a lot more, but I know better. And that's what it feels like to me, that he's, dabbling in this, and, but he's going, but look, I'm going to 2 meetings a week. He's going to 2 meetings a week, and I bet he's not working the steps. My suspicion, doesn't matter. But he doesn't have a high enough level of help. Addiction is a 24/7, and he's probably been doing it for decades, not just years. So going to 2 meetings a week and expecting things to be different is not enough. So we have lots of resources. Again, I would invite you to email me, tami@seekingintegrity.com. I have lots of resources. We have a Sex Addiction 101 work group that is starting March 4th, I think. Don't hold me to that. But those are psychoeducation. Lots of therapists recommend those. I can help you find a qualified professional. There's lots of resources, but I'm going to go back to what I started with you. What do you need for healthy boundaries for you? Because you distancing yourself, and it's taking care of yourself. It's distancing by, I'm going to value myself enough to know that you pushing that blame on me and being a nasty person is not okay. So I'm going to value myself. And again, we have a Betrayed Partner work group starting March 1st. Angela Spearman does a great job with that. It talks about healthy boundaries, it talks about communication, all of those things. And I think that could be beneficial for you. All of those are on seekingintegrity.com as well. So we are out of time. It was delightful to see you again. This is a great topic. I so appreciate you tackling this one. For those of you that have joined, we will be posting this on the Seeking Integrity site later today. So it will go up. And Kristin, you can always find more resources from Kristin directly on KristinSnowden.com. So check that out too. So thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Just a reminder to take a minute to, just a reminder, to go to KristinSnowden.com, or I also have a YouTube channel where some of these are posted, and you can sign up or subscribe for more resources.
Yes, great resources. All right. Thanks, Kristin. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.